most crazy helicopter and train sequence.
Okay.
First of all, he told me, we want to, hoist some guys rappelling from the helicopter to the train at 100 kilometers per hour.
Okay.
And I told him that's a bit boring to do. So then I told him why we don't land on the train at 100 kilometers per hour. But you have to understand it's 8 months before we do the film. So you can have a great idea, but then, why did I say that?
All right.
Sometimes I should not open my mouth.
So we're here with Fred North, the Fred North. Tell me a little bit about you. What's your background? And you're one of the most famous pilots that I know. How did this passion for helicopters, where did it come from?
When I was a little boy, I was living in Africa.
Yes.
And when I was 8 years old, around something like this, that's my first encounter with helicopter. But I was a little kid in a small town in Africa, and then that helicopter, it was an Alouette 2,
yes,
which is old French helicopter.
Yes.
Very noisy, very loud. And where I was living, there was no grass. It was pretty dry. So when that helicopter landed, it landed in a soccer, like a stadium, but full of sand. And right, but as a kid, when you see that, it's like an alien ship landing in,
yes,
so it was, when they landed, it was a military helicopter, and inside the helicopter was one of my teachers, because he was a photographer.
Okay.
And they were making some pictures of a river that burst into the ocean. And when he saw me in the group, he said, "Do you want to come with me?" And you have to understand, I'm 8 years old. At the time, why asking parents? For what? So he asked me, and I said yes.
Absolutely.
So I went. The Alouette 2, there's 3 seats in the back, and there was no seat belts. At the time, again, 8 years old, no seat belts, no worries, and no doors either. So I went into that flight, and you have to understand, at 8 years old, I was holding the seats. They were military seats, with the bars, the metal ones, and I was holding them like for my life, like that. And each time the helicopter was going to a left or to the right, I thought I was going to fall.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did that flight, traumatizing, amazing.
Yeah.
And from that point on, my mom told me I was drawing helicopters.
Okay.
So it was in my DNA from that moment on.
Yeah. So how did you become a helicopter pilot?
So my parents are teachers.
Yes.
And that didn't work well for me.
No.
So I was not a school boy.
Ah.
I did my school, but I was very bad at it.
Okay.
So anyway, long story short, my parents didn't know what to do with me, so they sent it to me in the army.
In the army,
French
okay.
army.
Okay.
And that's when I had basically discovered again the relationship with helicopters.
Absolutely.
And that's when I made the decision to become a helicopter pilot. And from that point on, then I went to a school in Paris and started to do my training.
Okay. And then after the army?
After the army, I went to Paris to do my training with a company in Paris called Elif France, and I think they're still in business today. I'm maybe not sure, but anyway, it was there, and I did it on an Enstrom helicopter. It was a challenging helicopter to train on, and then from that, I got a job as a tour pilot in a Bell 47. And
know it well.
But I was doing everything. We had a trailer with a helicopter in the back, and I was driving the van. We had speakers on the top of the van, and I was going to French Village, and I was saying, tomorrow we're gonna have tours, and then land it, take the helicopter off, and do the whole thing by myself with one person to help.
Wow.
And I did about 1,000 hours like that.
Okay.
For like 8 months, like a lot of hours, doing 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And after that, then I had a real job, and we're on the Écureuil, the A-Star, Airbus H125 at the time. And then I started to do real job,
Okay, transporting passengers.
Transporting passengers, and while doing that, that's when I started to do the Paris-Dakar rally, because that company was the company doing it. So then that's when I started really to discover that part of the
flight techniques,
yes, exactly.
Different type of flying.
And I did a lot of them, and long story short, fast forward, I did a lot of those rally as a film pilot for the TV.
Yes.
And that's when I understood it was amazing to have a skill for film. But I didn't know that the film pilot existed as a job for movies.
Yes.
I thought it was just broadcast.
All right.
And then one day, there's a guy that called me from America, and he was going to do a movie in Venezuela. And the helicopter that the production found was a French registered helicopter. So they needed a pilot with a French license to fly it, because that machine just been sold, and they haven't changed the registration. Long story short, he heard my name through the rally thing.
He knew you were French.
Because he could not take a guy from America because he didn't have the French license.
Yeah.
Anyway, I ended flying with him, and he explained to me, he was the cameraman that did the first Top Gun.
Okay.
And he told me, you know, it's a job, because I told him how I'm going to get paid if the helicopter is not part of my company.
All right.
At the time, I didn't know that there was freelancers, basically.
Yes, yeah.
And he told me, you know, he's a film pilot, you're going to be paid every day.
Yeah.
I said, wow, that's amazing. So then I went, and it was 1 month, and that's when everything changed for me. Because I understood that there was a job as a film pilot, that there was some skill that you can get. And from that point, I decided to, that's
You
what I
really
wanna
enjoyed that kind of flying.
1000%.
Yeah.
I love the creative associated to the technical part.
And the teamwork.
Yes, exactly. But I also love the fact that as a film pilot, you are a creative.
Yes.
Okay, because you're not doing what they're telling you, you're doing what you think is right for the film.
Yes.
Yeah, which is a big
Yeah,
difference.
so you have to collaborate.
Yeah.
What's the craziest thing you've ever done?
There's a long list.
Yeah.
The problem is, more I go into life, more crazy they're asking me to do.
Okay, what's the craziest thing they've
Well,
asked you to do?
I mean, you know,
Which maybe you refused.
no, it never works like this. So they never ask me yes or no. They will tell me, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think about it? You know, like, so, you know, 3 years ago, they asked me to land on a moving train, but it was my idea. So, in fact, what they told me originally, they said, we want the most crazy helicopter and train sequence.
Okay.
So then he said, you know, what could we do? And first of all, he told me, you know, we want to, you know, hoist some guys rappelling from the helicopter to the train at 100 kilometers per hour.
Okay.
And I told him that's a bit boring to do. To me, it's been, done a few times.
It's been done before.
But in my mind, it was. And I told him, but you have to understand, it's 8 months before we do the film. So you can have a great idea, but then, you know, why did I say that?
All right.
So then I told him why we don't land on the train at, you know, 100 kilometers per hour, and then the guys get off the helicopter and then attack the train. Great. From that point on, they organized the shoot for that.
Yeah.
And for me, after is like, well, I don't know how I'm going to do it. We've never done it. You cannot practice for this.
Okay.
Where? You know?
Yeah.
So I have to wait to be 10 days before the film to practice. At that point, we already committed to the scene.
Yeah.
They already spent millions of dollars. There's 4
It's
people
in there,
that day. You know what I mean? So you have self-induced pressure that came up because your idea. So sometimes like, I should not open my mouth, but I believe in it, you know. Anyway, so it was something very challenging to do. It was also the days we did it, it was -6 Celsius, and we're flying with no doors.
Oh my goodness.
So which adding to the challenge.
Yeah.
Because if you're really, really cold, you know, you're losing your capabilities. So, but you know, we did that. The other thing that was crazy was in the last Beverly Hills Cops 4.
Yeah.
That is on Netflix now. Anybody can see the film.
Here, we'll go with it.
It's number 4. There's a crazy helicopter scene in it where I'm flying between cars at a foot of the ground, like 30 centimeters off the ground, and then between cars inside the city of Los Angeles. And it was a crazy scene. So anyway,
I believe you.
It was not easy. It was challenging.
You also hold the world record for flying at the highest altitude.
Yeah.
Where did this idea come from? Did you just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to fly?
It's a little bit like, well, it was, I was in my 40 years old. As a man, you know, at 40, should I buy a Porsche? What I'm going to do? Is you're a little bit cruising in life, and then you need something to spice it up. So then I was thinking, I need to do a record in a helicopter. And then, so what you going to do? First, I wanted to land on the Everest.
Okay.
Okay, but then I started to look into it, and the complexity of getting permission, the permits, because, you know, 2 countries are fighting for the title of the Everest between Nepal and China and all that stuff. So it was like, okay, so too complex for me to get permission.
Yeah.
So then I decided, so let's do the world altitude record, because nobody owned that. Then it took me 2 years to put into motion, because where can you exceed the limit of the manufacturer of the helicopter legally?
Yes.
And where can you do it to go on the airspace of the airline legally as well?
Yes.
So it was not easy. So
you're at the same level as all the Boeings.
exactly. But I'm VFR.
Yeah.
I'm visual flying rules.
Yeah.
You're not IFR. And technically, after 18,000 feet, you need to be IFR instruments, which I was not, of course. So I had to find a civil aviation that was going to say yes. I tried in France, they said no. I tried everywhere in Europe, they said no. And I had a friend in South Africa, and he was also the owner of one helicopter for me to do it, the Airbus H125. And at the time, it's like, so then I told Dave Mouton, my friend, I said, what do you think? And he was one of the most known examiner in South Africa as a helicopter pilot. So he said, Fred, I think I can make that work.
Okay.
So then we decided to do it over there in Cape Town.
Yes.
So, we did it, and there was some crazy stuff happening on the way up
I
and
imagine.
on the way down. So in the book, that we wrote, Flying Sideways, I'm sure we're going to talk about it for a second, but it's the first time that I took the time to explain exactly how it went. And when my wife did the interview, because she wrote the book and did the interview of the story, even she was there that day.
Yeah.
We never really debriefed the flight.
Okay.
Because what happened is, the whole thing was an hour and a half about that. When I landed, when I was just flaring to land, I had a nervous breakdown. So just when I was flaring to land, so my body started to shake.
Yeah.
And no way to control it.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, and then I started to cry, and it was like 45 minutes, I was a wreck. But because of that event, and because I was a wreck, it takes time to recover from a nervous breakdown. And it was a first for me.
Yeah.
Also, I never had a nervous breakdown. I thought that was pretty solid, and like I could do anything. And that was the interesting part of it. That while you do a record, basically you're pushing the limits of yourself.
Sure.
And I basically hit my threshold.
Okay, so that was your threshold. That's
yes,
pretty far.
100% my threshold. No, but if you read the chapter on the world record, you will understand why. Yeah, you will. Yes, that one.
This is your book that
it's a fun
recently
book. Yeah. we wrote it really. It's an inspirational journey.
Yeah.
And for all the pilots, the young pilots out there that don't know how they're going to succeed, and all the obstacles come your way. And it's, I was very careful. I don't want to be one of those arrogant pilots, like my story is the best. Not at all. This one is really personal. I really was open book on all the mistakes I made, how I cope with the mistakes.
That's important, yeah.
Very important. And
so it's a good learning tool for young pilots.
It's a learning tool, 1,000%. Yeah. And it's very easy to read.
Okay.
My English is a bit shit. I make sure that it's easy to
so if you're French, you can understand it.
Right, 1,000%. It's a French English, but even German English will understand. And also, there's a lot of maps, there's photos, there are those QR codes at the end, people can see.
Okay.
It's very easy to read.
Okay. And speaking of learning, you've come up with a new project.
Yes.
This mentorship.
Program.
I think it's brilliant. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yes. So it's been years and years and years that I wanted to do something like this.
Yes.
Because the way I see it is as soon as you get your helicopter license, then from that point on, you by yourself for the rest of your life as a pilot. Because 80% of helicopter jobs are single pilot. There's only a few that you two. But even if you two, you're going to be with a colleague or a crew member, which is hard to express yourself honestly about the failure you may have, your doubt, guidance you want. So to me, the mentorship program is like to have a big brother in the aviation world. So the way it works is we have that website.
Yes.
It's called the Fred North Mentorship and Safety Program. And we have ambassadors. And those ambassadors are expert in their field and recognized by their peers. There's ambassadors for fighter fighting, for medevac, for search and rescue, for military, for Coast Guard, for police. And I need more ambassadors. So if you hear this, I need more people to join the program. Please send me an email. I'm reachable on it. And I would love to have more expert pilots that want to be ambassadors. Let's say a mentor wants to be part of the program. He will fill up his application on the website. And let's say you want to be a mentor for the firefighting world. So then the ambassador doing firefighting will look at the application of that mentor and will tell the website, us, that guy is okay to be a mentor. And from that point on, then we know we have that mentor. And then when a mentee comes to the website and fill up his application, saying, I want to mentor in the police, I want to be a police pilot later. So then he will fill up the application, will say that, and then we'll pair the two, the mentee and the mentor together.
Brilliant.
That's what the website. And from that point on, they are off the website. Okay? Because it's very important to me that it's a safe place.
Yeah.
It's not one of those internet pilot forums that destroy each other. Why? Because 99% of incident and accident of helicopters are human error,
That's so
which
true.
means are pilot errors, which means it's always our fault. Okay, so when as a pilot we make a mistake that translate to an incident of an accident, it's not easy for us to go through the pain of making the mistake and the pain to get out of it, to learn from it. But usually it's difficult to do that by yourself.
Yeah.
So I believe that if you carry that, you may never find the confidence again to not doing it or to make sure that you're going to make the proper decision. If you have a mentor that knows you, is like a big brother, because the idea of this program is you keep the same guy for a long time.
Yeah, that's great.
So he stays for as long as he can be in the business, and the same for the mentee and the mentor. So he will know the mentee. The mentee will know the mentor, and he can openly tell him, yesterday I did this, the weather was bad, I should have turned around. What do you think I should have done? Should have turned around? Should have keep going? Anything that the guy may do.
I think even I'm just thinking of me when I was a young commercial pilot.
Yeah.
You haven't pushed yourself to the limits.
No.
And there were times where I was in doubt, but I had to make a decision by myself.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to have somebody with more experience
To share.
who is not in my company, who's not my boss.
Exactly.
And just say, hey, my boss wants me to do this. I don't think it's a good idea, but do I do it? Do I don't?
No.
Yeah.
No, this is
and just
why.
have the support of somebody to have an opinion.
From outside
Yeah,
that you can
yeah.
trust. For me, that mentorship program is for those things that are super important, which is the core of it, because it's to have a better safety. It's
Because
also,
that's when accidents happen.
Yes,
When
and to
you
me,
don't know
I
your
think
limits.
the regulation today is excellent for all the aircraft now are extremely reliable.
Yes.
Yes, so to me, that's not the problem. But the human factor,
We are human.
We are the human. So which means, what can we do, us as a pilots, to do better safety? I trust that the safety that is for the regulation, it's just to make you crash legally. I'm kidding, but it's a little bit of that.
It's paperwork.
Exactly. So you have to crash legally. But it doesn't really preventing you to make the wrong decision in flight. And I believe that if we have someone that you can trust, I'm hoping to reduce, incident and accident. Even if we have just one, it's
worth
a lot
it.
of gratitude for it.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying again, we need mentors, we need ambassadors. I really need, people to please, join us. As a mentor, it doesn't take a lot of time.
Check out the website.
Yeah, go to the website, because it only take, a mentee will maybe call you 5 times a year, maybe 1 time a year. But it's just a phone call, a text. And if you can share a little bit what you guys know, it's crazy how much experience we have, and we don't share it with anyone.
Exactly. I mean, we've all made mistakes.
Yeah,
we don't necessarily admit them, but you can share it with somebody.
Yes, he can also
so
help.
he doesn't make the same mistake.
And the mentor can also, it will help him too.
Yes.
Because if you tell the mentee, I've done this.
Everybody grows, everybody
grows,
learns.
Exactly,
Yeah.
So, that
it will make
program
us
is
all
about-
safer pilots.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Okay, brilliant.
Thank you.
Alfred, thank you so much for your time today.
welcome. My
It's been an
pleasure.
honor to just have a discussion with you.
Thank you so much. Anytime we can do another one.
Great.
We can do Zoom, we can do whatever is
Okay,
easier for
super.
you guys. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And the pilots, por favor, please try.
Get
Be
in
there.
touch, yeah.
Yes, thank you.